many of you might have been following Richard Baris last night or catching up on his tweets of this morning, wondering what the heck was going on. I was not wondering what was going on because I know Richard Baris. I think I know him sufficiently well to know that the humorous needle replies of the internet mob are not true of Richard. And I did, knowing how things work, understand what Richard was suggesting in his series of tweets last night on the subject of Charlie Kirk. I knew what Richard was getting at before I called him this morning and said, hey, you want to come on to talk about what I know you're getting at? Because I've had my same thoughts as well. When it comes to the Charlie Kirk assassination, and you have people who are, I say, like Alex Jones back in the days of Sandy Hook, in a state of some form of psychosis where so questioning of every element of reality, they question reality itself, so prone to believing conspiracy theories, they deny the most fundamental of what are at least acceptable facts within a realm of reason. And they get into, conspiracy theory like, oh, Viva, you still believe that Fed slop? Charlie Kirk is alive. This was all some sort of insurance scam. Or, oh, you believe the Fed slop that Tyler Robinson took that shot? 30-06, don't behave like that. Oh, that's right. Martin Luther King was hit with 30-06 and it did next to his body. That's because it hit the jaw. So some bones can stop it, but blah, blah, blah. I have my own suspicions about what I believe is going on and what is not going on in the context of the Tyler Robinson prosecution. And when it comes to what you believe and what you can rely on and what you can more plausibly hang your hat on, some conspiracy theories are more tenable or less tenable than others. What I like to do is say, okay, I agree to the premise of the theory that is being put forward for the prosecution. Operating on that theory, I therefore have questions for the FBI, for Utah State Police who are investigating, prosecuting this. And one of the things that I've been asking from the get-go is what the hell is going on with the other people who were involved in those Discord chats? What's going on with Loverboy, who, you don't have to believe the text messages. You can believe that they are manufactured, they never existed, it's total Fed fabrications. You can believe that. But if you want to have a plausible discussion, you can say, I will operate on your premises that these are legit text messages. Okay, these text messages, if you believe them or not, accept that they are, assume that they're true for the purposes of questioning. They indicate advanced knowledge by at least a few other people. What's going on with those other people? What is going on with the people that were on the Discord chat? I was trying to pull up the links to messages, posts that were posted in advance of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Something big is going to happen. It's a promise, not a threat. People were on the Discord chat, had to have known. And if they didn't know, then we would like to see the full contents of those Discord chats, because I think that people had advanced knowledge. And then the question becomes, why aren't anybody seemingly going after those people right now? What's up with Twigs? Is he turning witness? Is he turning cooperative? Has he disappeared into the ether? So I know that this is going on in the back of my head, and I can presume, if I'm projecting a little bit, it's going on in the back of Rich Baris's head. A man who people love until he starts saying things that they no longer love. And so I reached out to Rich. Rich, you can bring yourself up now after reading many of his tweets from yesterday. So Rich, I know you read, I don't know if you read the replies. Let me bring it up. And people call it a crash out. It's coming at a time of night where, what time are you tweeting at, Richard?
I was working on a poll. It probably was like 1:00, maybe later.
Yeah, that's where you go from an optics perspective. You're probably just better off not tweeting, not because
my wife says.
First of all, it's not good to be on a device at that period of time. The blue light or whatever it is going to keep you up. Rich, tell us what's going on. Well, I'm going to make sure our audio levels are good. Everyone's been saying I'm consistently lower, so I'm trying to tinker with that pre-show. But Rich, tell us what the heck was going on last night as I scroll through some of the tweets.
And just as a preface, real quick, I'm glitching a little bit sometimes. So if I start glitching or whatever, or if I lose you,
the FBI's got
it'll
you.
come back. Okay. So just so everybody knows, like, there's just not enough time in the day. So I'm working on a poll, but obviously I know it's frustrating to a lot of people that they don't know sometimes what I'm talking about or what I'm referring to. And I know that it pisses, because I do read replies, it pisses people off. And they're like, this is cryptic. I don't understand this. the people the tweets are meant for know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So that's, and I will apologize for it being frustrating for some people, but that is my way of telling certain people I know and I'm not happy. And if you don't change something quickly, I'm probably going to talk. So like that, that is why Washington hates me, because I'm just one of those guys where if I think that it's in the public interest, then people should know. And so, I think, just to give people a little bit of an idea, I do, and just so everyone understands where I'm coming from here, I'm with you basically all the way. I don't think I disagreed with anything you just said. I do believe Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. Obviously, I've been saying this for a long time. There's a lot of evidence that I know eventually we're all going to get presented when the trial comes around, but I do know of some things I'm not sure everybody knows of, right? So I do believe that. However, I also believe that I know. I also believe that they dropped the ball here, and that this opportunity to smash up some of these networks that capture these like sick people, that's unfortunately what happens. We actually did a study on rising political violence in the country, and we missed the window to do any real good with what we found out. And why? Because the inability of our officials to tell a coherent story led to a lot of others going down rabbit holes that aren't true. And why the Candace stuff and the Ian Carroll stuff annoyed me so much is because you're missing the real story. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no,
Viva,
and
you're missing the real story.
I've said it. There's a number of circumstances in which the pattern materializes itself in a rhyming manner, but not an identical manner. But like Candace, asking questions, and we've seen. First of all, a lot of them were statements and not questions, regardless,
Right.
and a lot of it was just dirty, like dirty and also text messages of Charlie talking about other people that he was allegedly in love with.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely irrelevant, pure gossip, trash, dirt. Not asking questions there. That's just disgusting dirt that has nothing to do with anything. But Candace and Ian, the day of, saying Israel just shot their friends. Look, you could entertain certain ideas, but it made it more difficult for others who had legitimate questions to ask
Yeah,
those questions without being lumped together with untenable conspiracy theories. And in the same way, I had
that's
on
right.
Jake Lang yesterday. I say, like, throwing up Z Kyle and using the N word and burning Qurans makes it very difficult for other people to express their issues on immigration without being lumped together with people they might not be want to lump together with, and it allows the rest of society to disregard it altogether.
Yeah, they paint you with the same brush, Viva, and you get dismissed.
And here's my question, and I think you're going to get to it at some point, but it's the one we've had from the beginning. They designated Antifa as terrorist groups. Some people said, well, designating them domestic doesn't do anything because laws don't apply. They designated them as international.
Yeah.
Antifa. Now, the question is whether or not there was an Antifa infiltration element or a furry trans, whatever the hell you want to call it, element of this that might warrant investigation into the network that radicalized these people. You don't have to believe the Tyler Robinson story, but you ask them the questions based on their own story, which is, okay, he was radicalized online by furry, trans, Tifa, whatever you want to call it. You've designated them terrorists. What have you done to go after that network? Have you asked anybody that question?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to come back. There you go. Okay.
Oh,
So did I miss the question there?
Yes,
I
you did.
saw? Okay. So right, what have you done about it? Right.
Well,
And
what have
was
you
the
done
question
about
after that?
what have they done about going after the very network that they've
That's right.
identified as a terrorist network?
So this is where my bone to pick with them comes from here. All right. First of all, let me just tell people what it is I have heard from like many. This is not like throwing some one person under the bus. There's this general feeling that we don't want to confuse the story. We don't want to confuse the jury, right? So if there were other people who had foreknowledge, we don't want to throw this into the mix and then confuse and then this is ridiculous. Tell the jury a story they may find confusing.
Let me pause you just for 1 second, because I don't
Yeah.
want that being taken clipped. The general feeling is not, I have a feeling, in the sense. What you mean is a strategy that is
No,
being
yeah, it's not.
adopted
Yes.
to simplify, to what's
Yes.
the word I'm looking for?
Dumb
You
it
make
down.
well, dumb it down, but also streamline the prosecution
Yes.
so that you don't distract. Because one of the if you believe that other people were
Yeah,
involved
you
in
glitched.
planning,
Yeah, I got you. I got
okay,
you.
if you believe
Yes.
that other people were involved, then you could understand a strategy where they say, we don't want to complicate this with conspiracy theories, because then they'll say, oh, it wasn't Tyler on the roof, it was another person involved in this chat, and therefore there's your reasonable doubt. So they won't even get to convict Tyler. So the idea is
That's right.
it's a strategic idea to streamline the prosecution so that they can at least ensure a conviction of one person.
Yes, and let me just say, I don't buy it at all for a couple of reasons. If a group of 5 people robbed a bank, Viva, and they caught the one guy, do they let the other 4 perpetrators get away with it? There are Good Samaritan laws in like every state in the United States of America. If you at least even knew of that crime ahead of time, and you let it happen, you are a principal to that crime. All right, so this is it's a ridiculous argument, and then also it leaves the potential for other people who may have just themselves be dangerous. They may be dangerous themselves. It leaves them just out there. So like the next time somebody else gets it, right, the next one of us, who's next, right, the next time that happens, it'll be on them. The blood will be on their hands. And also, I mean, let's just call it what it is. This smells like shit. All right. To me, it smells like shit. It smells like you're hiding something you don't want people to know, right? I think Cernovich is probably over the target on this, or at least I very much want to know more. So when we get into those Discord chats, are we going to see FBI agents posing as furries and ginning up? Like we have seen this before.
Well, not just
Sam
we've seen it
Geller.
before.
All right. We have seen this before. Go ahead.
No, I'd say, and bear in mind, because what we're talking about is a radicalization of this guy at about the same time as Thomas Crooks, at about the
Yes.
same time as the other, Patsy, what's his face, Brian Cole. And this is why I tell, like, you guys out there might think that the text messages are AI manufactured garbage. Fine. You ask the people who are espousing it, as this is their theory of the prosecution. If he was texting his lover boy about, remember when I was etching the bullets, that in and of itself is something of an admission of advanced knowledge, or at least presumptive advanced knowledge of Tyler Twiggs, whatever the guy's name is. Why are they investigating him? And you have now this time frame where there has been overt radicalization of at least 3 individuals allegedly involved in attempts to murder. And were there other people in there, I don't even know what to call them, CHSs, agents, assets, whatever, who were doing what they did in the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot?
That's exactly right. There's another perfect example. And by the way, the writing on the bullets is becoming a pathology. And what we did determine when we did do this political violence study is that the left, particularly that element in the left, has a difficult time separating words from acts of violence, right? They don't see that much of a difference. That's why they're writing words on the bullet, by the way. I mean, that's why they're doing this. You remember the old expression, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me? They don't understand that. There's something like from my generation, we understood. You could say whatever you want, but it is different than perpetrating violence on somebody. They don't understand that difference. They believe those words are actually threats to them. So in their minds, when they take these acts, they're doing it in almost an act in their mind. I'm saying it's crazy. It's not, I don't believe it. It's not sane. But in their minds, it's actually an act of self-defense, right?
Well, no, for sure. It's
Crooks, all the rest of them. Who would get this? This is the same thing we get for. It doesn't matter if it's Biden's DOJ or if it's Trump's DOJ. Now we're blaming Iran for this. I mean, it's just such a ridiculous scapegoat. Come on.
We went from sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never harm me, to silence is violence. And there's no doubt in my mind also, I agree with you, like it's rationalized preemptive self-defense by lunatics who think that by not acknowledging their existence, you're somehow committing genocide. But the question is this, and we haven't gotten any of these answers. We've gotten one cop-out, which is the FBI is not involved. It's a state prosecution, but the FBI can offer their services. Then you get the element, well, there might be some federal charges that you can throw in there, especially if you're dealing with a domestic terrorist group that might have infiltrated and brainwashed, radicalized these kids. Then is the suggestion and the fear, and this is where my conspiracy mind goes, that if they were to reveal that, it would reveal that there was FBI, CHSs, assets, whatever, who might have been tangentially involved in the ultimate assassination of Donald Trump's, one of his closest friends. And What would that do to the state of America if that were to be revealed to be the case? And so, that's what I was reading your tweets as, with that in mind, when I was catching up on them this morning. And I guess the question is, how much truth to that is there based on what you seem to understand?
Well, I can tell you that, you know what, this is Alec. I think you have to credit Alex Jones for this. He may have been the first one to report it, but these other leads were well known and viewed to be credible in the immediate aftermath of Charlie's assassination, and they just went nowhere. Cash just shut it down. Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, attempted to do her job, which is anytime, just so everybody understands what the Director of National Intelligence even does. Anytime there's a lead like that, it may indicate there may have been some intelligence or, foreign interference, and that could mean anything. Don't go down the rabbit hole, guys, where, oh my God, Israel killed Charlie. Don't do that. I mean, there could be these international organizations, these groups, that are that's their entire role in society, is to capture weak-minded, vulnerable young men and women and radicalize them into Antifa hitmen. I mean, really, that's what they're doing. They're creating, Antifa soldiers. And she attempted to do her job, Viva, and was shut down. So, yeah,
allegedly. I say allegedly because you don't.
Yeah, I've heard this is true.
Yeah, I know. And then people can say, Viva, you can't rely on the New York Times when you call them shit rags under the circumstances. Well, sometimes you can rely on them, especially when it corroborates what you're getting from other sources. Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Kent were allegedly looking into it, and it pissed off, like they're stepping on the toes of Kash Patel and his control over the FBI.
And that's literally her job. That is her mandate.
And before everybody seems very keen on jumping on the Israeli bandwagon, and I can't criticize them or blame them for thinking that, especially when you get Netanyahu coming out and misrepresenting why Charlie Kirk, didn't go to Israel, that he was going to,
and the donors, and Josh Hammer, and we all knew they were lying. By the way, we all knew what was the deal. And so to even do that it just smelled. Everyone has their own agenda. So even that doesn't lead me to believe that it's evidence of something. What is evident to me is that, the state is running the prosecution of the assassin himself, but the FBI, it is literally their space to investigate how any of this might have occurred. Folks, yes, a 20-year-old man, 20 young man with a rifle can do a lot of damage, all right? And it doesn't have to be some crazy thing that happened. But how that young man goes in a very short period of time from being completely apolitical and not involved or interested in politics at all to being radicalized as a far leftist and a furry banger who thought Charlie Kirk was a threat to him and his lover and whatever else it is their job. Figuring out how that happened, that is their job. We have a major problem in this country with a lot more people like Tyler Robinson waiting in the wings, and they're doing nothing. And I literally was asked why by the administration, why didn't Charlie Kirk's assassination energize the right? I don't know how you don't know the answer to that, because you didn't do anything. If this was Joe Biden and the roles were reversed, all of these groups would have had their doors kicked in. There would have been a roundup. Come on.
Just so we're also clear, I don't use the word pretextual in this context in a negative way. This was the impetus to do what they were already laying the groundwork to do. You declare these organizations terrorist organizations. Is it just to have a nice soundbite so Pam Bondi can go do a Fox interview? Yeah, we've done it. This was the opportunity to start dismantling it, to go after the donors, because I just looked over here, and this again, it's people don't believe it's
He was their personal friend. I can't explain. If people who are listening don't understand this, he loved the president with every fiber in his being. Him and JD were friends. This isn't like a fly-by relationship, and I guess I'm just stunned. If this, think about it, play the imagine if game. Let's do the role reversal game. If the roles were reversed, and there was somebody, which I don't think the left has an equivalent to Charlie Kirk, but if there was an equivalent to Charlie Kirk, and that person was the personal friend of the Democratic president and the Democratic vice president, don't you think that heaven and hell would have been razed to the ground to punish people who were even, minor connections to this event.
It's no, but I mean, it's
break.
we draw the analogy between, often you compare it to January 6th as the abusive pretext. This was the impetus that they needed to go after the organizations, to investigate, to go after the money. Instead, you have Kash Patel again on OAN talking about, we're going to go after the money. Did you know that it's not grassroots support for these protests where you see the same banners? Like, no shit. Everyone's been talking about that for the better part of a decade. You had your chance, and now one can reasonably surmise that it's a strategic decision to not broaden this investigation, to go after a conspiracy, because they don't want to risk, confusing a jury that there might have been more people involved in this that would allow them to come to the conclusion that maybe Tyler Robinson wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, because now that seed of doubt has been sowed adequately in the spirit of the general public as a result of the more extreme conspiracy theories that have been promoted.
And what kind of message does that send to other would-be assassins and their friends and their networks? What message does that send? It's like open season, and you may even be able to get away with it. But guess what? If the shooter's not, don't worry. If you had any involvement whatsoever, we won't round you up. I mean, this is crazy, Dave. This is crazy. And again, I'm not saying this because I'm not saying this to like confuse anybody or throw any I'm not trying to get anyone to go down the rabbit hole. We have this is the rabbit hole. We have a major problem with rising left-wing political violence, and all they do is talk. Has Don Lemon been arrested yet, guys, because of what he did in the church?
No, but see,
break. Is Obama on the tribunal yet? I mean, you guys are being stalled. You're being hoodwinked. Speaking of one who was also killed with FBI involvement, you're being bamboozled, as Malcolm X liked to say, hoodwinked by the white liberal. All right, you are being tricked, and Rich, you're sitting there clapping like seals while people are dying. It's ridiculous. Wake up.
No, and you have with the Don Lemond, they say, well, it takes time. You don't know how it works. If this isn't TV. Meanwhile, it's been a year, and the only charges they've brought thus far, Leticia James Comey, tossed, and nothing else. So on the one hand, it takes time. We're not going to run in
on her homework assignment.
No, it's like on the one hand, you're being told it takes time, and on the other hand, well, a year is not enough to have done what we promised to do. But in the context of this, to use this as the righteous thing, that a battering ram to get into these organizations, to who funds them, and when you're dealing with, and you've done the stats, and maybe this will be a good opportunity to tell us what the polling looks like, a culture now that seems to valorize extrajudicial assassinations, the Luigi Mangione culture, which they have done nothing to fight it. And now, if you're cynical, it looks like they're actively trying to cover up, because I do believe that Tyler Robinson took the shot. You can make fun of me all you want.
And me too.
I believe that he had others who helped him. I do believe, and I wonder whether or not there's even any evidence to suggest that the University of Utah, it wasn't University of Utah. Oh, I forget, it's Orem.
Yeah.
Whether or not, when Charlie Kirk's team was told that the campus security was going to cover the roofs, whether or not there might have been activists, even within the campus, which is a pretty lefty campus environment, allowed it to happen. Yeah, but no, nothing that we've heard of. And then the argument is, well, wait for the trial. The trial deals with Tyler Robinson. The question is, other people were involved to a greater or lesser extent. What's going on with them? And there's no answers, no movement.
I mean, and again, we're all just meant to believe that this guy woke up after not being a political person over the course of less than 6 months. He just decided to wake up on his own and kill somebody. It's the same thing with crooks. And, you brought up the security thing. I mean, these are all questions we also had after Butler. Like, how could this have happened? This is more than incompetence. Like, guys, your president almost got his head blown off. We forgot already? I mean, this is a major, major problem in this country. People are getting shot at, like, on a pretty consistent basis. It's not normal.
And the people that were at the helm of those failures get promoted.
And
I do remember after Sean Curran got promoted to head of Secret Service, Dan Bongino said, I tried. That was his what do they call it? Vague posting? I never heard the term for when you don't get the full context. And no answers on Butler, no meaningful answers on Butler. And it's not just that Butler happened. Yeah, and it happened with no answers. And then this happens in the wake of, this is Butler 2.0. Like, they not only learned nothing from Butler, they learned the wrong lessons from Butler, because nothing comes of the failure.
They didn't want the Florida Department of Law Enforcement with the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump in Florida. They didn't want Florida law enforcement officials to have him in custody at all. They didn't want him to talk to Florida law enforcement. Why? Why can't the FDLE have conduct an interview with this guy? They were panicked over it. The FBI was like, "No, you can't speak to him." It took 2 seconds to do a moderate. You don't have to be the FBI, guys. You can do this on a Google search and you'll find out that guy has a pretty long history with NGOs, including NGOs that supported the Ukrainian side of the Russo-Ukrainian war. And this guy just decides to take to goes through the bushes in Mar-a-Lago, which, by the way, how did he know that was a vulnerable spot, right? I mean, come on. And we're all just supposed to, pretend that it's just a crackpot, nothing else to see here. We did our job. He's being prosecuted. That's it. No, there's a network supporting these people. And it's just crazy. And if it's not going to be Donald Trump's administration that does anything about it, then what the hell is going to happen to everybody when a Democrat is elected next time? What is going to happen? They will turn a blind eye and these guys will just go to town, Viva. They'll just go to town. That's where we're headed right now. I don't understand how people don't see that.
No,
like this is not funny at all.
Well, and that people can diminish your tweets from last night with quips and whatever. Bottom line is these are legitimate answers. I want to read this one. Portland Feed says, "Remember, DNI was prevented by Cat from exploring international links." Now everyone goes to Israel because that's the easy one. That's like the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
How about China?
Could be anybody.
And by the way, I don't want to steal his idea. This was Cernovich's underlying idea as well. That this is probably the results of Chinese TikTok influence and brainwashing of American citizens to sow discord in America. Because you look at the key bono, who benefits from Charlie Kirk's assassination. I don't know who benefits. I just know who has lost. And it's been a free fall. You'll tell me the stats of conservatism and support for the GOP and basically a downward trend of Trump's administration since.
Well, at the very least, it looks really bad because for people who don't know this, Charlie was often effective when people like me were not in getting the administration to understand when they were going off of the tracks. And the problem is that Charlie was always pushing against and this is when things start to look bad, when the foreign lobby and the donor class aren't getting their way because Charlie is successfully being able to persuade the president, look, you can't do regime change in Iran. You do that, MAGA's over. It's finished. You can't react like this to Epstein. It's not a joke. You have to address the concerns because these younger voters are gone, Mr. President, if you don't get them back, if you don't, actively acknowledge, without him, there's been, I think Matt Walsh said it, that I guess a lot of us didn't realize how much Charlie was holding this tent up, right? He was like the center post of the MAGA tent. I think that's maybe a little too far, but what isn't going too far is that, if I wanted to convince, or anybody, Robert, right, wanted to convince the president, I think you need to marry Maha with MAGA, and that's going to get you 2 to 4 points in the Midwest, and you could actually win this thing fairly easily. Kind of go in one ear and out the other until you hit the president like from multiple angles with it. You hand your poll to Charlie. If you arm Charlie with a poll like Robert and I did from the 1776 Law Center, doing this and showing this, Charlie will march in there and get it done. Next thing you know, there's a turning point event. Robert Kennedy comes out with the president. The fireworks go off. And he wins Michigan fairly easily, right? That is the power that Charlie had. And then also, again, and people don't have to even take my word for this. You can listen to the vice president himself in a speech publicly tell the story. We were not getting through this idea that if you take limited action, if you have to do something, but if you go beyond bombing those nuclear sites, your base is going to start to crack and they will abandon you. Because a lot of people don't understand that Trump's base is not Republican. Like MAGA does not equal Republican and Republican does not equal MAGA. Trump is able to win where other Republicans are not because of these, whatever you want to call them, MAGA, America First, independents and low prop voters that don't vote for anybody but Donald Trump. And Charlie really got that. He understood that, but he was also very very effective at articulating that in an easy way, that these people are going to fracture off, you're going to lose them, and your political support is the only armor you have against the Democrats. And let's face it, 80% of the Republican Party, who are two-faced traitors who want to stab Trump in the back the first chance they get. They'll vote to convict him if the conditions are right. That part is absolutely true. Charlie was vital to that. And he was the reason that the president only took a limited response and bombed the nuclear facilities. The vice president told that story publicly for everybody. So when you have people like Barnes and I running around trying to tell people how hard it has been keeping the ship straight without him, we're not playing. It is that he was that significant. He really was.
And I don't want to, I'm not going to ask your sources or who you met with, but the bottom line, your understanding, and it's sort of in line with my assessment, is that they are avoiding complicating anything,
Yes.
keeping this, ignoring all other paths,
it's intentional,
so that they can simplify the prosecution. And the FBI is not, at least as any of us know, looking at any federal charges that might, discover a network that may have contributed to this.
If they're doing something, nobody knows about it. And I will say this to give, because I do think Cash does deserve somebody to say this one thing. There have been a lot of actions that he has tried to take, to bring forth accountability. Big deal Donald Trump ran on. A big part of the deal that Trump made with voters had to do with accountability in this system. And the DOJ is the black hole. It's where everything goes to die. They can't bring the cases themselves. Pam Bondi has to do it. The U.S. attorneys have to do it. And it's my understanding that there's actually quite a bit of work done. I know actually John Solomon reported this as well, but I've actually talked to John about this and talked about different, we've had conversations about what he's heard from his people, what I've heard from mine. It's the same story. The DOJ is the black hole. That's where everything goes to die. There's no accountability because Bonnie doesn't want them to be accountability. She'd rather waste half of her day making sure students are expelled from school because they may have tapped another student on the shoulder over an IDF t-shirt. I mean, this is so and she's so proud of herself for shitting all over the First Amendment. I mean, I don't think the right understands how much moral high ground they are losing here. And they will not be able to make an effective case to the voters again if they continue to go down the route they're going down. Pardons for these criminals, no action or accountability on other criminals that you promised to hold accountable. Pam Bondi running her little game over there. And, I don't want to get too into specifics, but there are definitely lobbyists who are, having their run of the place. And when Democrats take over, they're going to dismantle these little grifts that they have going on in Washington, D.C. Republicans, you're like so stupid, you forgot. That town is built for Democrats. The whatever you want to call it, the administrative state, the deep state, the bureaucracy that really runs the show in that town, they are ideologically aligned with Democrats, and they let Democrats get away with a lot. They let you get away with nothing. You think you're getting away with this? You're not. And the American public's going to digest some awful, awful shit here. And it's going to look very, very bad when the Democrats make the case that I don't know how, I have to be blunt here, that MAGA was a fraud. They never cared about breaking up big anything. In fact, they're in bed with most of them. And by the way, for a couple $100,000, look at this pardon. I mean, it's just it's gross. It's gross, and I know that I've spoken with Democrats about this. I'm sure you and Robert have had private conversations, maybe even public, about some of the very same thing, because I know he's spoken to some of the same people I have. They are ready, and they have a plan, and it's not going to be haphazard the way it was the first time around. They have individual files, a stack on Bondi is the biggest one, but they're going to target parts of the administration first and try to dismantle some of the, the president's more, I don't know. I mean, I guess the way to look at it is the more damaging some of these people are to the president, the easier it will be when they finally go after him. Like at that point, there will be almost nothing left. No suit of armor left. They're smart plan this time, guys.